Hey there, Jaywalkers. It's JJ back after letting my cyborg princess take the reins for our two massive episodes on the First Amendment. In going over the notes, I thought whether or not flag burning should be illegal would be a good episode. Yeah, current events gave a push on that. That being said, flag burning is legal in the US, protected by the First Amendment. It wasn't for a long time. In 1907, the Supreme Court upheld a state law in Halter v. Nebraska where two men tried to sell beer with an American flag on the label. In 1968, Congress passed the federal flag desecration law in response to Vietnam protests where flags were being burned. The law made it illegal to knowingly cast contempt upon any flag of the United States by publicly mutilating, defacing, defiling, burning, or trampling upon it. The court moved closer to the Johnson decision in 1974 when it held in Spence v. Washington that a person couldn't be convicted for using tape to put a peace sign on an American flag. The decision made it clear that a majority of the court saw the act as protected expression under the First Amendment. In 1984, Gregory Johnson burned a flag in protest at the Republican National Convention. He was arrested, and the case eventually made it to the Supreme Court. In a split decision, SCOTUS decided that Johnson was convicted for engaging in expressive conduct. The state's interest in preventing breaches of the peace does not support his conviction because Johnson's conduct did not threaten to disturb the peace, nor does the state's interest in preserving the flag as a symbol of nationhood and national unity justify his criminal conviction for engaging in political expression. According to some reports I saw, flag burning started in response to the Union deciding to go to war with the Confederacy, but it didn't lead to any case law or anything, so I didn't really include that here. So with why flag burning should be illegal, the Utah Chronicle. Protests have been forming all over the country and the world, with people taking a stand against United States President-elect Donald Trump. Peaceful protests can be effective in facilitating change, but actively creating contention will get you nowhere. A majorly controversial part of these protests has been the burning of the American flag. Although it is legal and your right to do so, this action will not help your cause. In fact, it will do the opposite. People will be less likely to listen to what you're saying if you are disrespecting something they hold dear to their hearts. The point of a protest is to get your voice heard, to create change, and to have opponents see your point of view. If you are taking the American flag and burning it to make a point, you only create more distance between your movement and the people you want to have listen to you. You will not get any endorsement of your position by degrading what many Americans believe represents the honor and dignity of this country. It is a symbol. It can be compared to killing a bald eagle in the name of your protest, another American symbol, and people will react angrily. They will not be willing to listen to you. Protesters have recently burned the flag to express their anger toward our current administration. By burning the flag, they're attempting to generate enough drama for people to take them seriously. But this isn't a respectable way to gain legitimate attention. It seems like the people burning the flag don't understand the true symbolism it represents. If you don't understand the significance of burning the flag, you should not be doing it. There are many other ways to spread your vision for change. The author has heard the argument that symbolism is not as important as civil rights. They agree with this, but burning the flag isn't going to correct problems or cause change. What burning the flag for protest purposes will do is create more anger, more separation, and more negative thinking towards your goals. Protesting shouldn't be geared against America the country, or the symbol of the good it represents, but against the current people and policies with whom you disagree. Burning a flag in the name of protest is like protesting against the traditional democratic republic that has served as the foundation of one of the greatest countries in the world. What it comes down to is knowledge and life experiences. The author would like to ask people who are using flag burning as activism if they have ever seen a killed-in-action soldier's casket come home from overseas. Have they witnessed the casket coming off the plane with an American flag draped over it, as the family stands there wishing they could see their son or daughter one last time? Have they been to a military funeral when a folded American flag is handed to a mother who just had to bury her child? Have they watched a widow try to explain to her child why dad isn't coming home? Imagine going up to that parent or widow and telling them you want to burn that flag to protest a president you don't particularly like. You want to take that flag, which now represents their dead child or spouse, and burn it. You want to burn that flag and openly protest because of rights their dead child or spouse and others like them fought to protect. As a veteran, the flag represents something more to the author because of the deaths of the many it represents. To many Vietnam, Korea, World War II, Cold War, Iraq, and Afghanistan war vets, the flag was and is a symbol of hope that wars won't last forever, and that active soldiers will be able to return home to their country with honor. No matter your stance on the military or on war, Many men and women have died to protect your right to protest. In their place is now a triangular blue field of stars visible through a wooden shadow box. The question doesn't concern so much whether you have the right to burn the American flag, because you do. The question is, what is your point in burning the American flag? Peaceful protests are wonderful. Standing up for what you believe is part of what America is all about. But if you are attempting to get the respectful attention of those opposing you, why create more anger? If you want your voice to be heard, come up with ways for people to listen to you without stirring up anger and resentment. That is the only way to protest respectfully and effectively in our America. That is the way to create change. And then we have the Pacific Legal Foundation on why flag burning should remain legal. Today is Flag Day, which marks 242 years since the United States adopted the Stars and Stripes as our nation's official flag. But throughout our nation's history, many Americans have asked the question, is flag burning protected by the First Amendment? Next week marks 30 years since the U.S. Supreme Court protected the right to burn that flag. 3 decades after the court's decision, it remains controversial. For example, shortly after his election, President-elect Trump tweeted that flag burning should result in consequences, perhaps loss of citizenship or a year in jail. Trump is not alone in believing that flag burners should be punished. His 2016 campaign rival Hillary Clinton, as a senator, co-sponsored legislation that would have led to jail time for flag desecrators had it become law. But punishing an expressive act like flag burning would do more damage to the flag than any lighter fluid ever could. In a pair of cases, Texas v. Johnson, 1989, and United States v. Eichmann, 1990, the Supreme Court voted 5-4 to protect the right to burn the American flag as a form of symbolic speech. That right endures, even if mistreating the flag deeply offends onlookers. Protection for offensive speech, even flag burning, is the bedrock of the First Amendment, because ideas we all share need no protection. The First Amendment protects unpopular opinions so that speakers and listeners have the freedom to decide for themselves what speech is worthwhile and what speech should be rejected. The alternative would require us to extinguish the fixed star in our constitutional constellation, that no official, high or petty, can prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or other matters of opinion, or force citizens to confess by word or act their faith therein, as Justice Robert Jackson aptly pointed out in an earlier freedom of speech case. During the oral argument in the court's first flag burning case, Justice Antonin Scalia Riley remarked, "If I had to pick between the Constitution and the flag, I might well go with the Constitution." Scalia's preference was wise, because the American flag only remains a viable symbol of freedom so long as the freedom it represents endure. Magicians Penn and Teller illustrate that connection between burning the flag and freedom better than mere words can convey by burning a flag in their stage show. Their sleight of hand demonstrates that, ironically, even as the American flag burns, it protects the person who burns it. As the Supreme Court noted in Texas v. Johnson, our flag celebrates the nation's resilience, not its rigidity. Not so in countries where the flag represents tyranny, oppression, and one official version of the truth. In China, for example, flag desecration is punishable by 3 years in jail. The significance of America's freedom goes deeper than the question, is flag burning protected by the First Amendment? On this Flag Day, and every day, we must celebrate the freedoms that give the flag its luster, especially when those freedoms cause deep disagreement and offense. Ours is a unifying flag by its very composition, with its stripes for the original colonies and a star for each state. But it is a voluntary unity, built on the freedom to disagree. So long as the American flag protects the freedom to dissent, it cannot be destroyed. So on to the memes. There's one that says, "You are free to burn my flag, I am free to burn yours too." And one panel is an American flag burning, and the other is a pride flag burning. Technically, they're not wrong, I guess, but burning a country's flag feels different than burning an identity flag. I wonder if they take it all the way to the disability pride flag, or is it just the one for the LGBT plus community? Another one has Uncle Sam pouring gas from a canister labeled free speech onto a burning American flag. I feel like this one's a little on the nose, but it's a good representation of the fact flag burning is protected speech. There's a ton of memes regarding burning the Confederate flag. That's not really the flag burning we're talking about here. So then the takeaway. Evelyn Beatrice Hall wrote, "I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." If you've taken nothing else from listening to Jaywalking, you should know that rings true to me. I believe as long as you're not advocating actual violence, You should be free to say what you will, regardless of my personal preference. On a semi-related note, I'm not a fan of the rhetoric that you shouldn't burn the flag because it gets draped over fallen soldiers' caskets. It's still a symbol, and burning it makes a statement, and using veterans as props to prevent that statement leaves a bad taste in my mouth. With all that said, jaywalking through life is a Hidden Star property. If you have a topic suggestion, point I missed, or a disagreement, you can meet me in the crosswalk here on Spotify, on YouTube, or at jaywalkthroughlife@gmail.com. And we'll see you next month.